So welcome to this webinar on building tools for your team with Power Apps. One of my favorite tools. I'm really looking forward to talking to you about it. We've got a couple of things that we're going to cover in this FeedbaCK webinar. First of which is to build a functional app in minutes with Power Apps. If you're familiar with Power Apps, I think you'll still enjoy this demonstration, but if you're new to it, you'll pick up some skills as we go through this session today and some awareness of what Power Apps can deliver for you and your team. We're also going to talk about introducing some new things that are going on at Combined Knowledge. So some of our new content that we're releasing soon, both in Training Plus and courses. And we're also going to talk about the opportunity for your organization to learn on demand through a learning management system, which we'll talk about towards the end of the seminar. We always love to reward our webinar attendees with a £50 Amazon voucher. So if you stick around till the end of the session, there's always a catch, isn't there? But if you stick around until the end of the session, what we'll do is we'll put up a specific hashtag to put back into the comments with your email address. We randomly select someone from that list and we'll contact you via email after the session to award you with your Amazon voucher, which is very useful in this time where you can't really go out to the shops and buy what you fancy. So Amazon is quite useful at this point in time. Okay. So, just a little bit about myself just before we kick off. My name's Chris. I'm the training team manager and technical content lead at Combined Knowledge. My focus is on managing our team of talented trainers and also making sure that we're producing up-to-date content for our course manuals and for our training video content as well. My background experience outside of Combined Knowledge, I've kind of worked alongside Microsoft on their step-by-step book series as a technical editor, and I've also spoken at various conferences and community events around the UK as well. Moving on from that, let's get straight into our topic, because I know you're here, you want to learn a little bit more about Office 365, and I'm very enthusiastic about the Power Platform. So let me talk to you a little bit about that before we get started. If you haven't heard of Power Platform, it's a selection of Microsoft tools, typically solution builders. What I mean by solution is, do you have a particular need that you're trying to fulfill? Maybe it's automating a holiday request process, or maybe it's dealing with customers automatically through your website. Well, Microsoft through Office 365 provide a selection of services, some of which are actually available to home users as well, like Power Automate. But what we're going to do is just give you a little bit of an overview of the Power Platform and what it is. First thing, they all begin with the word power, all of which, except for Flow, which was upgraded to the term Power Automate very recently. So Flow is now Power Automate. We'll explain what each one of these tools do, but they all should begin with the word power. And we start off with Power Apps. This is the focus of our webinar today. Power Apps allows you to build applications. So this could be purely informational. It could do something like data entry, provide you with reporting information. The best way to think about an application is think of the apps that you can get on your mobile phone, hugely diverse. So Power Apps assists you with building these apps, but they can be accessible from mobile phones and tablets as well as your desktop computer. Incredibly powerful. The next tool that we have in the Power Platform is Power BI, excellent for data modeling and reporting. So if your organization is creating tons and tons of data, then you could get insights into that information with Power BI. We'll also introduce Power Automate. I mentioned it earlier, formerly known as Flow, gives us the opportunity to automate common business processes. So like I said earlier, if you submit a holiday request, it might have to be approved by a manager, and your manager can instantly tell you whether they've approved or rejected it. Power Automate can handle those tasks, freeing up time for you to spend on other things. The new kid on the block is Power Virtual Agents. Power Virtual Agents is the kind of bots that you encounter on websites. So sometimes when you go to a website, a little "Can I help you" bubble pops up. Now, sometimes those are manned by real people, and sometimes they're automated. So Power Virtual Agents allows you to automate chat. So you might say, what time are you open on the website to the chat bot? And it says, we're open between 9 and 5, Monday till Friday. So rather than someone as an agent having to commonly answer questions, Power Virtual Agents just automates that. It gives them the information with the opportunity to hand over to a real person if the question can't be answered. So somewhere along this platform of functionality, hopefully you found something that you find interesting. I'm hoping that it's Power Apps, because that's what we're going to talk about. Power Apps recently evolved a space between the word power and apps. I know that sounds like a bit of a joke, but actually it is quite important because Microsoft kind of went through a rebranding. They got rid of, I'm just going to turn my webcam off now, guys. There we go. Microsoft got rid of Flow as the name for the application and called it Power Automate. And just to bring it inside, well, in line with Power BI, which had a space between Power BI and Power Automate that has a space, Power Apps now has a space. So that's what the latest branding looks like. It's not a big issue, but if you're researching Power Apps, my apology. If you're researching Power Apps, make sure that, you know, if you can't find what you're looking for, try it with and without the space. Sometimes you'll actually find you get different search results based on how you're searching for Power Apps. So that could be a little bit of a bugbear for anyone who's kind of researching the tool. Other than that, absolutely fantastic application. So if you're not familiar with Power Apps, it gives you the ability to build desktop and mobile applications really quickly. One of the great things is that anything that you build is highly integrated into Office 365. So here's an example of a little training app that I made. All it does is it provides people with training on things like Word, PowerPoint, and Excel, so little on-demand videos. This app I could just basically place within something like Microsoft Teams, give people the opportunity to access that information from their favorite applications. The cool thing is as well with Power Apps, if you have a data source, you really do accelerate the build of your app. We wanted to build a barcode scanner app, and we had a spreadsheet full of barcode numbers and product information. As you can see from the screenshot here, we just built a quick barcode scanner app that connected to this data source. Power Apps built most of it itself. All I did is I built a little front-end interface on a screen and put a little barcode scanner right that passed the scanned barcode right across to the spreadsheet to look up that information. Really cool stuff. We can also build apps from scratch, and that's what I want to do today, because quite often when people demonstrate to you how to use a tool, they always have a here's what I made earlier. You know, I'm building this based on assets that you don't have. What I wanted to do today is to build a translation app using buttons and services that you can use in your Power Apps suite. And this means that if you want to try this out yourself, this video will go live on YouTube by the end of the week. You can always rewatch this video and pause at certain intervals and build the app yourself. Or if you have a fantastic memory, you could probably give it a try on your own. So what I wanted to do is just jump across to Office 365. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to jump across to Power Apps. So with Office 365, many of you will actually have Power Apps as part of your license, as you will Power Automate. So a lot of you can kind of get stuck into this, but would always recommend obviously learning a little bit about the product, which, as you'll notice, there's a little bit of information on the left-hand side of the screen here to jumpstart you. I want to do that as well. I want to kind of get you interested in this tool. So I'm going to click on the Create button just on the left side of the screen. As you can see, looking at the screen here, we've got three options: a blank app, a model-driven app, and a portal app. Now, these two options here and here, the model-driven and portal apps, they're for more premium users. So there is a scale up in the licensing for Power Apps, but we all get Canvas apps for free. There are some components within Canvas apps, such as some services that require premium licensing as well. I'm going to show you something that you can build for free today so you can try it out yourself. So I'm going to start off with a blank app. And what you'll notice is that it's going to ask me the name of my app. So I might call this Talk to Me. And this is going to be either a tablet or a phone app. So you can see that it's just basically whether the phone prioritizes a portrait look and feel or something that's a little bit more widescreen. Because I'm planning on using this in Microsoft Teams, I might go for a tablet layout. These are not interchangeable yet, and there is no, at present there's no responsive design for Power Apps, but it is coming this summer. So keep an eye on Power Apps. If you are interested in responsive design apps where the app will change its size and shape based on the width of the screen, that is coming. Very excited about that. Until then, we have to stick with our static templates, so they're not interchangeable. If you want a tablet and a phone app, they would have to be separate apps, but you can copy and paste between browser, which is fairly useful in recreating duplicate apps with different screens. Now, this is going to take a few moments to get ready, so we'll just have to be patient. What it's doing is it's just building the canvas, and here we go. Just a quick lay of the land up here. The great thing about Microsoft products is they always tend to have this ribbon with the tabs across the top of the screen so that you can find important information across the top of the screen. Towards the right, you've got your undos and redos. Don't worry about mistakes. You've even got your play button, which we're going to use to test the app to make sure it's working as we're building it. You've got your canvas in the middle. This is where you drop shapes and objects and controls. And you've got your properties screen for any selected object on the screen. And yes, we can't ignore the formula bar across the top of the screen. Like Microsoft Excel, Power Apps has a lot of formula logic to it to navigate between screens, to click and enact various processes. So we'll learn how to use the formula bar in today's session. And then over on the left side of the screen, we've got the objects in our app, starting off with a screen, and then laid beneath that will be any object we place on the screen. So think about your mobile banking app. Your mobile banking app has several screens. Your login screen, the screen that shows your various accounts. You tap on an account and it shows your ingoings and outgoings for that account. So the app is built on multiple screens, and we have the opportunity, as you can see at the top of the screen here, with the new screen button to add various styles of screens that we can customize. Now, I'm not going to actually have multiple screens on my app. I'm just going to have one for now. And it's already given me one for free. Now, a screen, you can do cool things. You can duplicate screens. You can rename screens. So I'm going to rename this screen to home. By the way, if you have more than one screen, this is a very important tip. The screen at the top is the one that loads when your app first loads. So if you have 5 screens, it's the one at the top that loads first. That's an important tip if you're building an app with multiple screens and you want to choose your home screen. You don't actually click and define it. It's the one at the top that becomes the home screen. Even if it's called home, it's the one at the top that makes it home screen. Now, I'm going to introduce a concept to you. We're going to build an app that translates from English to another language. We're going to be able to pick the language, but we don't really have a means of doing that, not without something clever in our app. So what I'm going to introduce you to are services. So one of the cool things about Power Apps is that it can connect to a variety of data sources, but it can also connect to a variety of services, and these are called connectors. Now, you might notice some of these tools you use in the real world. So there are things here like Salesforce and Zendesk. So if you work with third-party tools, Microsoft has a lot of now integration with these services. If you're looking for a particular service, all I've done there is I've clicked on the data sources on the left, and I'm now searching for data sources to use, and I want to use a translation service. As I start to type in the word, you can see that we've got a couple of translation services here, and I just want to highlight what this means. If you see a light bulb next to a service, it basically means it's in preview, so it's nearly ready for production, but there may be a few tweaks that need to be made, so it might change in the near future, but it will eventually be released. So there's a little bit of a caution around that. If you see a diamond, that means that it's a premium feature, so you'll have to have an enhanced Power Apps license to be able to use this functionality. For those of you who already have Power Apps, SQL services just became premium, meaning that you need a premium license to be able to consume apps that have that functionality. Now, fortunately, in this case, you'll notice that this Microsoft Translator service, the V1, is not premium, so I can actually go ahead and use that. Here we go. So this is adding the service to my app, and the way that we can consume this service is by using formulas. Before we consume the translator app, let's start to build our app with a few controls. So controls are buttons and fields and other components like drop downs that will feature on your app. So if I go to the Insert tab, you'll notice we've got a couple of shortcuts for labels and buttons, and we've got a more detailed array of content here, which we'll go through today as we mention the build of this app. So I'm going to start off with a couple of text inputs. So think about this. If we want to translate from one language to another, we're going to need to input some text. So we're going to use a simple text input field. And if I select the tree view on the left, you'll notice that under screen 1, we now have text input 1. And what I could do is I could put in another. So you could copy and paste, or you could insert another one here. So we've got this one here and this one here. Let's make those a little bit bigger. You've got the guidelines in Power Apps that makes it nice and easy to make things the same size. I'd also think with an app you'd want a drop down field, wouldn't you, to pick a language. So let's put in a drop down field. There we are. You may have noticed there were two types of drop down field there. There's a combo box and a drop down field. A combo box is actually just a drop down field with a search bar. Okay, whereas a drop down is just a drop down with a selection of choices. I'm also going to have a button. Buttons are useful, so insert button. We'll have a button to translate. Oh, feels like I've done all the work already, but actually this app is doing very little. What we want to do is we want to translate from one language into another. So just to be tidy, what we should do is these are all got very generic names. So this text input 1 is going to be our English language. So I'm going to rename that. I'm going to call it English text. Number 2, text input 2 is going to be, let's call that translated text. We've also got our drop down, so I'm going to call this maybe language picker. And finally, we've got button 1. We'll call this translate button. Cool. So we've got our labels in here, so everything's kind of easier to understand. And the reason I'm relabeling them as well is because I'll reference them in formulas as well. So let's do something very easy. So we've got over here, our default value for this is just text input. I'm just going to clear that out for a second so that's empty. And the default value over here is, again, text input. But what I'd like to do is I want the default value on the right to be a translation of the value on the left. So over here, if I type in English, this will get translated to, let's say, French. So in order to achieve this, what I'm doing is I'm using this formula bar against a variety of properties that are available for this single object. And one of the object options is the default property for this particular object, the text field. So I want the default property for this text field to be something different. So what I'll do is I'm going to use the formula bar to call that Microsoft translation service that I added earlier. And I just start to type in the name of the service. So there we go, Microsoft Translator. And then it asks us what we want to do. So typically, once we've selected the service, we get in the formula bar a little dot. And then that's going to ask us what we want to use this service to do. So we've got dot translate. And then you'll notice that this uses a type of IntelliSense that informs you how you need to build it. So what it's saying here is that we need to query the thing that we want to translate and then specify the language we're translating to. Well, the query is going to be the English text in this field. So I'm going to type in English text. And when I reference English text, one thing I love about Power Apps is that it literally color codes it. Look at that. So you can see which is related in your formula to which object. So do translate English text to, so we do a little comma, and then it's going to ask me what I want to translate to. So it says, you know what, if you use FR, Chris, that will translate to French. So I'm going to type in FR, see if that works. Close the brackets and see what we get. Now, how do you test this? Oops. Just .fr and looks okay. English text.fr. So we don't have anything to translate. Let's just test this. So hello. Took a little bit of time. That's probably my broadband being soaked up by GoToWebinar, to be fair, but that's worked better, quite well. Now, yeah, we don't have a drop down, we don't have a button yet to translate, it's just doing it automatically, so let's come out of that. So that is working, that's translating from this box here to French. So the next thing we'll do is we want to translate to a specific language. So what we could do here is that this drop down box has, at the moment, an items property. So I've just selected a drop down, it's got items. So this would normally be what you want it to, what you want people to select from. Now I don't want to have to type in every language. So one of the things that I could do is I could plug this drop down field into that Microsoft service once more. So if I get rid of drop down sample for my drop down field and put in Microsoft translator.speech languages, I could actually just close that bracket and hopefully it should go away and grab my speech languages. Now, I know what you're thinking, that doesn't look good. Now, quick tip, if you hold the Alt key, you can actually interact with your app. So normally when you just click something, you go into editor mode. But if you hold the Alt key and click on it, it will actually allow you to interact with the app. Doesn't work so well with text fields, but it's great for clickable things and sliders and toggles. Now, if you're good, you'll probably know that's Catalonian. And that's Arabic, but if you're not particularly savvy with those language codes, it's not great. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at how we can make this a bit better. So for our language picker, I select it and my formula is good, but you'll notice on the right side of the screen, we haven't really talked about this area here. These are the generic properties and the advanced properties for the selected item. And one of the things you'll notice here is that now that I've connected to these speech languages, there's actually two ways that this could be displayed, either as code, which is the language code, AR for Arabic, or it could be displayed as the actual name of the language. So what I'm going to do is click on this drop down and click name. So just a little bit of exploring, you discover actually there's a few different ways that I can tweak this particular appearance of this. And look at this, this is fantastic. If I click on this drop down, wow, got all of those languages available now. So I bet you're thinking, okay. So now at the moment we've kind of fudged this because we put the French language code in there. Now we want to actually refer to the language picker. So to refer to the language picker, what we need to do is we need to specify this control, which is language picker, but what property of the control are we interested in? This property, this control has properties for things like the pressed color, the size, the tooltips. There's lots of different properties. So one of the things that I'm interested in is basically what has been selected in this drop down. So let me show you how that works. So again, I'm going to get rid of this hard-coded language code, and I'm going to type in language picker. There's my language picker. It's not happy yet, so I need to put in a dot to work out what it wants next. Then I can actually specify a variety of different properties that are available. So I've got all of these different properties that I could potentially use. I'm going to use the selected property. Dot selected, and then it's going to have another dot, and then we got the code of the language or the name of the language from my selection. Now I know this formula likes the code over the name. Name's better for aesthetics, but code's better for the formula. So I'm going to just pick that one there, and hopefully that should kind of set in. And you can notice immediately that's actually translated to Arabic. And if I click on this drop down, hold the Alt key, click to Czech, and that's translated to Czech. Let's go to German. So it's translating as we go. Cool. Okay, so one thing that I will kind of allude to here is that actually in this scenario, we've got a situation where the app is translating and translating and translating as I'm using it. Now, some of these free services as you're kind of using them, have a ticker that's going up and up and up. And if you overutilize that service within a short period of time, it will kind of lock you out of that service until it's simmered down and it will allow you to use it again. So sometimes we might actually want to have buttons to translate the text that we're putting in over things like the automated translation that it's kind of doing in line. So what I want to do is I want to use that button. But just before I do, let me just have a quick look. What I'll do, let's sort of customize this a little bit more. So what I'll do is I'm just going to kind of grab the formula out of here. This formula works quite nicely. I'm going to introduce variables. So in an app, we can store information temporarily. This could be quite useful if you want to pass information between one part of your app and another. For example, what we could do with this button is when the button is clicked, we tell that button to translate the text, and then we feature that variable in a field to the right-hand side. So I'm just going to show you how that might work. So this button here, where it says button, we've got an onSelect property, which is what the button does when it's clicked. What I could do is I could say onSelect, create a variable. I'm going to be really generic. I'm going to call it var1 for variable 1. So set open brackets, var1, and then do a comma, and then what do you want to do? So on select, when we click the button, we create a variable called variable1. We paste in this code that we had in this field over here, and then we close the brackets. So just to set it up, we click this button. When the button is clicked, we create a new variable called var1, and that's going to have our translated language. And then over here, we just set this box to var1. So what that means, I know it sounds like I've just created a lot of work for myself there, but what that means is that it only translates when I click on this button. And then that's reducing the amount of times the translation is operating over time. And that hopefully will kind of cut down the amount of times we're using that free services over the course of an hour. Now, button doesn't look good. I think you'll agree. So let's change the text of that button from button to translate to space. What I want to do is I want to do translate to and then the language that's selected. Now, one of the things that you need to do is if you've got text, it's normally in quote marks. If you want that text to sit alongside a formula, then you'll need to concatenate. Concatenate is an ampersand character, and it just means that we can bring values together, such as static text and information in other controls. So I'm going to say we translate to, then we're going to refer to our people picker. People picker, that's a SharePoint term. Language picker. Language picker, and it's upset, so I do a dot, and then I say selected, then dot, and then the name of the language that's been selected, and that says now translate to Germany. And you know me, I'll probably fiddle around with the aesthetics far too much, but that's looking pretty cool. So if I make a quick change, and you know, want to really check it, you can remember your French lessons. It seems to be working quite well. Now I'll put a spin on this because I kind of want to go out on something that's quite interesting. Let's say that one of my colleagues comes over to my desk and say, look what I've done, I built a quick little translation app. And they say, oh cool, so if we use this with our team, we might want to prep multiple statements. So we might want to translate a few sentences into another language and then paste that in. Is it possible to actually translate multiple lines of text and display them? Now, what's interesting is if we go back to our demonstration earlier, we created a variable. So if I go to File and go to Variables, we created a variable that is storing the translated text. Now that variable is designed to store one value. If we use a collection, it's a type of variable that can actually store multiple values. So if I come back out of this, oops, no, I don't want to close it. That'll be disastrous. So what I might do is go back to my button and find the onSelect property, which is what the button does when it's clicked. And I'm going to change this to collect. So collect, and then I'm going to call this, again I'm being lazy, col1, collection1, and I don't need this field anymore. I'm going to delete it. What I'm going to introduce is a gallery. Now gallery is like a table, but it's more suited for mobile phones and apps. So you'll notice that it's a little bit more visual. I'm going to have a vertical gallery, and I'm going to connect it to collection1. So it already understands that a gallery can sort of work with multiple objects. And I'm just going to position this a little bit better. And now I'm going to tidy it up. So a gallery typically will show an image and some text. So if I kind of clicked translate to French, we're getting a few values in. So that's working already because the collection is populating bit by bit. What I might want to do is maybe tidy this up. So if I go to the fields here and the layout, what I can do is just click on this drop down and go for just title. And that gets rid of some of the stuff I don't need. I've still got like a button here that I don't need. So I can actually click into the first line, which is the editor for the remaining lines, and delete that. And then I could also save myself a little bit of space, really. I could sort of squash this down a little bit. And then as I kind of click, I could sort of translate different lines of text. Now, this is getting a bit full. it will just keep scrolling, so you'll end up getting a sort of scrolling experience with this. But we might want a little trash can to clear down this collection. So the last thing I'll do is, just to help my users out, I'm going to add a little trash can. I'm going to just put it at the top right, and that's going to clear down this collection. How do we do that? Well, the icons actually have on select properties too, just like buttons. And what we could do is we could do clear, and then we could specify col1 is the value we want to clear. And then if I Alt and click that, we can clear that down. So again, we can sort of shuffle this around a bit. I can control click these and maybe move them over, give us a little bit more space over here. And this is something that I tend to sort of teach students as a way of introducing variables to their apps. But what amazes me is that you give the students an extra 15 minutes and they've done so many things. I've seen people put language flags to show which languages they're translating to. I've seen people do language detect, which is part of the Microsoft Translation Service. So I've seen people do some amazing things with this idea. So don't feel enclosed to actually, if you're trying this, if you're watching this video later and you're building this bit by bit, try the things. Try using the language detection in the first field, and then use a different language in the first field and translate it back to English. It really does work particularly well. I think my app's a bit ready. Well, ready enough. We could potentially put a theme on it. I'm going to go for a red theme. Very exciting. But you could brand it more if you wanted to. Once your app's ready, use the File tab. You could create a lovely little icon. So where are we? Let's have something that's really exciting. A pair of scissors. And I bet you didn't think I was going to pick that one. We'll have a pink pair of scissors. So this is the app called Talk to Me. I've put some random logo on there. I could potentially browse and find something maybe a little bit more interesting. I think some of these might be a bit too big. Oh no, they do work. And then once you're ready, you can change some of your other settings, but I think we're about there. So we'll click Save. Now, when you save, it will then give you the opportunity to publish and share it with colleagues. You're the only one technically who will see it the first time, so you need to share it with other people to allow them to see it as well. I'm not really going to do that just yet. What I'm going to do is just show you how this app could be used. A couple of ways that you could use it. I could go over to Teams and I could add a new tab, and then I could add a Power Apps tab directly to a Microsoft Teams channel, and then bring my app in. Now, hopefully it's here. I was a bit kind of rushed. Search for Talk. Oh, there it is. Talk to Me. I was looking for the pink scissors. I forgot I changed that. We won't post to the channel about this. We'll just click Save. So if my colleagues want to use my new app, there we go. It's directly inside my team, available for people to translate from one language to another. The other thing that I could potentially do is use this on a mobile device. So whilst I kind of have my phone with me for this demonstration, let me show you that. Over here you go. So if I just do a quick refresh, hopefully we should be able to find our Talk to Me app. There it is. A couple of little tips for you here. So this is the Power Apps mobile app, and it acts as a broker for your apps that you publish. So if an app's been shared with you, if you build one yourself, rather than having to go to an app store and download it, you actually just download the Power Apps app, and then you use that to you use that to access the app from your mobile phone. Now, one of the things I really like about this is that you can also pin. That's why the Authenticator app wanted to jump in there. Come on. The problem is, when you sign in and out as multiple tenants, as some of you will know, it does play havoc with some of your apps. So I just want to show you this. If you click on the little ellipses to the right-hand side of your app, you've got the option Pin to Home. And then you could potentially just pin this directly to your mobile phone screen. So if you've got lots of apps, but only a couple that you use quite regularly, one of the things that you can do is just add it to your home screen. And there's my Talk to Me app, so I can just tap on that to access it directly. Oh. just my luck. There we go. So that's all working as expected. So you've got your buttons and so forth. Now, obviously, the UI is slightly restricted. Mobile phone interface will probably be a bit better for that, but it kind of works. So that's good. So I'll just take the phone off the screen. And that was a little bit of a look at Power Apps. If you kind of thought that I went through that at a massive, rapid pace, I mean, that's about kind of 80% of my webinar spent on just that, because I really wanted to show you some really good functionality. But I normally demonstrate things like that a lot slower. But when you've got a small amount of time, you kind of try and tear through it and hope that people will follow. But if you want to learn a little bit more about Power Apps, we very regularly schedule Power Apps training as part of the data expert track, which also includes Power BI and Power Automate. Every month or so, we schedule a data expert track, and you can cherry pick. You can just do Power Apps, you can do Power Apps and Power Automate, you can do the whole week and do Power BI as well. But if you're just interested in learning a little bit more about Power Apps, you could do the 2-day course. You build a range of real-world apps. It's very much hands-on, so we get you to build a lot of the functionality yourself, similar to what we've been doing today. We also show you a little bit about branding, publishing, sharing, recovering your apps from mistakes, basically everything that you need to get out there and start building apps for your teams. The next course we're running is on the 2nd of June. So if you are interested in that or any dates later on in the year, go over to combined-knowledge.com and have a look at some of our training sessions there. Phew. Kind of feel like I can relax now that I've done that demonstration. Anyone who's done a demonstration, Caroline's in the session, she'll know you're always kind of anxious that something will go wrong at some point along the way. And when my phone decided to not open the app, I thought, here it is. I thought it would be a formula or something that would throw me out. Anyway, let's talk about very briefly what's new at Combined Knowledge. So I'd just like to introduce you to Rav. He's not on the session today. I was thinking about lynching him and bringing him into the session today, but I've set him a task. He's quite busy. You can see the last bullet point, what he's actually busy on. But Ravinder Sandhu has joined Combined Knowledge. He's actually been with us for a couple of months. And Rav brings with him 20 years of experience teaching technology. He spent quite a few years working in the Law Society as well as an IT trainer. So he's got lots of experience with Microsoft Office, things like Excel, Microsoft Visio as well, Microsoft Project, and also he knows a lot about Microsoft Dynamics CRM as well. So we've set Ravinder to work on creating some Microsoft Dynamics content for Training Plus, and also some new courses that we'll have lined up in the near future as well. So we just wanted to introduce you to Rav, who's recently joined the team. A couple of other things I wanted to update you on as well. First of all, last month I completed creating Training Plus for Power BI. So that's going to be coming into Training Plus very shortly. So we've also updated Power Automate and Power Apps as well. So not only have we completely revised all of the content because of the rebranding of Flow to Power Automate and the updates for Power Apps, we've actually redone the whole content and introduced some more functionality as well. So we've created scenarios where you can learn a little bit more about how to practically apply these tools to real-world scenarios. And then finally, I've been working very hard over the last few weeks creating a brand new Power BI course as well. As you can see, I've given you a sneak peek here. I put some of the pages that I've been working on yesterday and the last few days up on the screen here. We're putting together a brand new Power BI course with new data, new concepts, new labs, new ideas to make a really comprehensive entry-level course into Power BI. I'm really excited for it. I think it's very, very easy to understand. I think the flow's really good, so we've done a lot of work there to redesign the course so it's much more useful for our students attending the training. Okay, so we're just into the closing finale of our webinar, and I wanted to kind of finish off on a high. We wanted to just kind of give you an overview of a bit of news that's come recently from Combined Knowledge. So effectively, one of the things that I wanted to kind of run by you is the fact that we've formed a new strategic partnership between Combined Knowledge and an organization called Mandarin Academy. The excellent thing about that is that it basically leverages the video content that we have in our Training Plus platform and integrates it into a learning management platform called Dileap. Quite often we've been very humbled by the feedback that we get from Training Plus, the amount of content that we cover, the level of detail, how easy it is to absorb. But one of the things we don't really give you is a learning management platform that comes with Training Plus. We actually designed Training Plus so you can drop it into your learning management system, but quite often the organizations tell us, well, we don't have one. What do you recommend? So we've got this strategic partnership with Mandarin Academy. The Dialeap platform is their learning management system. The great thing about it is that both Training Plus and Dialeap are both Azure hosted. So that means that effectively you'll get access to your video content and your learning management platform on a server that's closest to you. And if you're an international organization, that could be very useful. As we currently stand, there's over 160 hours in the Training Plus package. So that's the content that Combined Knowledge creates. There's over 600 videos. And as I mentioned, there's 44 Power BI videos coming to that stack very shortly. So it's effectively the ultimate platform for learning all of your content with consistent videos that are the same quality across the product. What Dialeap adds to the framework is it gives you a brandable learning management system that is brandable right down to the actual content that you're using. So even the content inside the videos can be branded as well, which is not often what an organization can offer you when it comes to your learning package. The other thing that you can do is you can create custom learning paths, so by role or department, or if you're an organization that has champions within it, you can actually create an agenda from our selection of learning videos to help train up your champions. You can also push recommended courses. Do your champions need to know something new? Do you see a new feature coming out in Teams that you kind of want people to be aware of? Then you can actually start recommending courses and videos to people as they log into this learning management system. It's got gamification as well. All good systems do, where people can earn badges and we can specify how many points they need to achieve various badges to show off to their colleagues how knowledgeable and skilled they are in various Microsoft Office 365 applications. Users can measure their own progress through lessons, as all good learning management systems do, but also you've got your transcripts available. So if you do have someone who may have a visual impairment or may prefer to learn in an environment where they're more sort of closed off and they can't really sort of focus on the audio, they've got the opportunity to read the transcripts from the learning content as well. So just a few additional bells and whistles that I'm really interested in. The fact that not only do we have sort of reporting at a personal level and administrative level, it gives us the opportunity to try and recognize where we might notice things like skills gaps. If we're getting lots of IT service desk calls saying, how do I do this? How does this functionality work? We've actually got built into the Dialeap platform email templates that you can communicate videos out to certain audiences. So if the IT service desk are noticing a trend in issues around a particular knowledge gap, they can start to use this platform with its branded email templates to push those comms to the right audiences. Costs for this system are very low in contrast to other learning management systems. So we've worked very closely with Mandarin Academy to make sure we're not just competitive, but we're kind of undercutting the competition to some degree. So that's a little bit about Training Plus and Dialeap. If you want to learn a little bit more about that, you can contact us via our information, which is available here. So it's sales@combined-knowledge.com. It's our contact number and our website as well, or our LinkedIn handle. Together, Combined Knowledge and Dialeap offer you 26 years of experience combined between the two companies. So we're certainly in good standing within the digital learning space. Right, let's see how we did for time. Really well. So hopefully from this session, you're kind of a little bit more excited about Power Apps. I definitely would, if you've got a license, just have a little bit of a play. It can be a bit daunting, but remember there are some learning guides when you navigate to Power App in the left-hand side of the screen. And if you really want to kind of skill up in Power Apps, do get in touch with us at Combined Knowledge. We can help you out with a 2-day course or a more bespoke course if you require it. The next webinar that I'm going to run, I worked with the MOD last year and they were pushing My Analytics. And when we started teaching people about My Analytics, the value that people were getting out of this solution was absolutely commendable. So we wanted to kind of push that knowledge to you. So when we next schedule our webinar, keep an eye on our newsletters, our LinkedIn. We're going to be covering My Analytics. If you haven't seen My Analytics before, it's a good thing to kind of be aware of. Our contact information is on the screen. One other thing, if you stuck around till the end of the session, do go to the questions panel, type in your email address and just put hashtag PowerApps at the end. That's the tag we use to identify questions that feature, questions that we want feature your email address so that we can award you the Amazon voucher. So just pop your email address in. Pop hashtag PowerApps next to it. You'll notice that I haven't put a space between that, naughty me, but it is just a hashtag, so it shouldn't really have spaces anyway. But anyway, yes, pop your email address. You need your email address, very important to send you your voucher with hashtag PowerApps. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the webinar at the end. I'm going to basically just use a random number generator and we're going to identify a winner. We'll contact you. Myself or Aaron will contact you shortly after the session, hopefully, with your voucher. At the latest tomorrow, we'll try and make sure that you have your voucher for the weekend so that you can, I don't know, spend it on something exuberant. Thank you very much for attending the session today. We hope you enjoyed it. It will be going up on YouTube. So if you search for Combined Knowledge on YouTube, we'll just place this into our channel. And if you think it will benefit anyone else to watch the PowerApps content, definitely send it their way. Hopefully they'll find it useful. And remember, you can watch the video again yourself and actually try it step by step. You do not need any assets to build that app. You can build it yourself based on the demonstration that I've done. I know I went through it quite quickly, but you can pause the video as we're going along and have a bit of a play yourself.